What is one random act of kindness a stranger did for you? When I hit no money as a student, I went to do a shop with the little money I had left. Turns out my phone bill came out and I was flat broke and had to leave all the shit at the cashier whilst I went outside to work out if I could loan money. This absolutely amazing woman comes out and said she saw the whole thing and she has a son who's a student who gets into similar situations, and she gave me a hug and forced some money in my pocket. I was too flabbergasted to say anything then, but lady, if you're reading this, you really changed my opinion about people in general and made sure I ate for the first time in a week. Thank you, kind stranger, and I hope life rewards you. You should just be as positive as her, for her. My wife and I saved up to buy a nice, for us, grill years ago, but we never thought of how to get it home. We were trying to get it in the trunk of our little car, and were just about to resort to opening the box it came in to put it in piecemeal when a guy who'd been sitting in his truck eating dinner in the parking lot came up and asked if he could help us transport it to our place. We lived 20 miles away, and he was still more than happy to drive it to our house and drop it off, and refused any kind of payment for helping. Some say the nice mysterious stranger is still out there, eating, waiting, for the next person in need of his skills in the parking lot. Ghost good guy delivery driver. I was parked on a downtown street in the full sun. The lady that pulled into the next space started installing her windshield sunshade before she walked away. I said, "You're lucky to have one of those, I must get one, too." She opened her trunk and handed me a brand new one, saying, "This is an extra that was given to me, and I now give it to you." She even showed me how best to install it. So I thanked her profusely, and off she went. Later, I spotted the same one online for $59.95. PS enjoy your cake day, op. My period started in a public bathroom. Took me completely by surprise. My mum was there, fortunately, and she was searching her purse for quarters for the dispenser. A woman offered her a tampon from her purse because the dispenser ones were terrible. Oh, that's the worst. I had some change, and when I tried to use the machine at my university, nothing came out. I asked the woman washing her hands, "Do you know if these things work?" She said she didn't know, but she had something in her office and came back a few minutes later with something. I was so grateful because I had a 3-hour class in like 5 minutes. Okay, I'm gonna tell the story exactly as it happened, but it's kind of hard to believe. One day when I was around 19, I took my father's car without permission to go to the 7-Eleven that's a block away from my house, because I simply wanted to drive. When I got to the store, I started panicking, thinking my dad could get home and not see the car, so I tried to get out of the parking spot and I hit another car. I considered running. I was a dumb 19-year-old girl, come on. But I decided I had to own up to this. Also, I could see everyone inside the store turn their heads. The owner of the other car came out super chill and saw the hit. It was on the back of his car, and I started apologizing over and over and explained that I had no license, no insurance, no permission to take the fucking car, but I'd still take the responsibility of this. Before I could even give him my info, he looked at me calmly and said, "Well, run before your dad gets home." I was shocked. He even helped me get out of the parking spot properly. Sir, wherever you are, I hope life has repaid that act of kindness x 10 times. P.S. When I got home, my dad was there, saw the hit, and I learned a damn lesson. I was waiting at the traffic lights to cross the road. It was raining a bit and I didn't carry an umbrella with me that day. I don't really mind the rain, so it didn't bother me that much. However, a man went up to me and held his umbrella over me while we were waiting to cross. It wasn't much, but it made me so happy smile. This just reminded me of a time I was walking to work. There was loads of scaffolding covering all the pavement and a blind guy was walking with his white stuck in front of me. I said to him, "There's a load of scaffolding blocking your path and I can help you through. I'd you like?" He just responded with an angry no. And proceeded to walk into it. It sucks being disabled. I was and probably still am sensitive about my disability. I can't explain it really. It's a mixture of things, mainly pride, stubbornness and anger. In my case, I always tried to ignore it and be normal. Poor choice of word on my behalf. I'm somewhat tired, instead of embracing it and being who I am. This did make me chuckle though, trying to assume why he might have been angry. I showed up 1 minute late to the airport to catch a critical flight. People were literally still going through security, but they wouldn't let me enter the line. I had a breakdown in the waiting area. Some random old guy came and handed me $20 and said, "I know this doesn't help whatever it is you just missed, but if they let you take the next one, at least go have a hot breakfast on me. Take care." And he just shuffled off on his way. I was floored. I used to live 2 hours away from Atlanta, where my sister lives. Anyways, I had a bunch of flights I was taking from Atlanta and got in the routine of staying at my sister's and going with her to work, which was near the airport, and then catching an Uber. Well, I wasn't as used to airports and Atlanta's morning traffic, but I told my Uber driver nonchalantly that my flight takes off maybe in 20 minutes, and he was like, "Oh shit. You're going to miss your flight." So then he proceeds to weave through the interstate, using the exiting lanes to pass up other drivers while I'm now freaking out cause I thought I'd be on time. Anyways, thanks to him I did make it. I cannot fathom the recklessness it must take to casually make your way to the airport 20 minutes before boarding. Arrive 1 hour before boarding domestic, 2 if international. I was an American in China and 6 months pregnant. I was at the train terminal and the hormones kick in. I start crying for literally no reason, which makes me only cry harder. A very tiny old Chinese woman grabs my shoulder and said something I don't understand. She then grabs me and gave me a huge hug. When she pulled away, she gave me a great smile. It was exactly what I needed. Pickpocket 100. And here I was thinking that there was going to be no laughs reading this thread. You proved me wrong, thanks to Johnny. Today I was going on a job interview. I started my route extremely early to be sure I would go there in time, but as fate has it the train was late anyway. So when I got off the train I had to basically trot my way to the company. It's a very hot day and I got all sweaty in my face and stuff. While I was in the elevator, this guy who works there asks me if I'm going to HR. I reply yes, and then he proceeds to tell me where the bathroom is so I can wash up a little bit before going in. Damn it, I didn't thank him then and there, but I thank you now, kind stranger. When I was in an abusive relationship and being starved, I had to go away on business and had the opportunity to meet up with a friend. While I was waiting for him, a homeless charity gave me a cup of tea because they thought I was a junkie. Given how thin I was, I explained I wasn't homeless or a junkie, but they said I looked like I needed it. I burst into tears. It was the nicest thing someone had done for me in years. Spring 2018. I accidentally stumbled upon a wedding dress I loved for $60 with only 3 weeks left until my wedding. I called around everywhere and not one local business could fit me in for alterations. I was discussing this with a co-worker on our hospital lunch break in a quiet area, and a nurse from the cancer center pops around the corner and says, "I do alterations. I'd love to look at it." Taken aback, I ask her what she usually charges for her work. She says, $50. This is extremely cheap for wedding dress alterations. I accept her offer, get her number, and we arrange for me to bring it in on our lunch break the next day. She had me do several fittings, just to make sure it's perfect. She even purchased additional material for part of it. During those times, we spoke about our lives and she told me that her mother passed this winter. They used to sew together, and working on projects like this makes her feel close to her mom again. On the day I pick it up, she hands me the dress with a huge smile. I try to give her the money and she won't take it. She says it's on her, in honor of her mother. I broke down and we both cried together. I promised to pass on her good deed one day. Christmas Eve a couple years back. I had worked a shift at the hospital, not a doc or high-paid person, and was trying my best to get to my family's house about 2 hours away before dinner. My brakes on my car just are not working right. It's snowing like crazy, and I'm thinking there is no hope. I saw the local mechanic was still open, so I pulled in and told him what was going on. Half hour or so later he comes out and tells me what was wrong and that he had gone ahead and fixed it. I asked him what I owed him for the work. He said, "Get home to your family safe and have a Merry Christmas." I felt like I was in a Hallmark movie. It is now the only place I will take my car. Once I blew a tire on a pothole an hour from home, and by sheer coincidence, the first place I was able to pull off the road was an auto repair shop. But it was well past closing time. I was starting to panic, clueless young woman by myself, didn't even know if I had a spare in the trunk, let alone how to put one on, but I knocked anyway, hoping I wasn't completely fucked, and turned out the mechanic was still there. It was a nice old guy who took mercy on me even though it was late. Told me to sit in the office and calm down, and he put my spare on for me and charged me less than $10 for his trouble. I told him I would leave him good reviews on Yelp or Facebook or whatever, and he was very politely confused, said he didn't know whether they had pages there, but gave me a business card because there's a website on that. The next day my mom called and tried to buy him and his employees lunch, but he insisted it was fine, he just did what he would want anyone to do for his daughters. Nice mechanics are a special kind of angel. What is one random act of kindness a stranger did for you? Greater than once I blew a tire. https://i.imager.com/wr4pnx1.jpg. I used to work at a well-known fast food restaurant. While I was working at the counter, I had this casual but lengthy conversation with an older couple. When I gave them their order, the man slipped me a postcard of an academy that was unknown to me, before saying, "Please apply." At home, I googled it and saw that it was a wildly expensive school for gifted adolescents. I like to think he did this to me only. I've never thrown it away. Please tell me you applied. It's cool if you lie. I went on a school trip to Parc Astérix in France when I was in UK Year 7, US Grade 6, I think, and was having trouble ordering a no-relish cheeseburger. Random old biddy wandered up and asked me, in English, what I was trying to order, and proceeded to order it, in French, on my behalf. She forgot to ask for no relish though, so she wasn't helpful at all. I was running and dropped my MP3 player without realizing it on a busy city street. A nice older African man literally stopped in traffic and flagged me down. When I didn't respond because I was spacing out, he honked and waved his hands for like 5 seconds. People were beeping for him to go, but he was persistent. When he had my attention, he said, "He has it. He has it. Hurry." I turned around and ran 2 blocks and caught up with a guy who had just picked it up and tried to fast walk away. Thanks dude. I was on a trip on Norway and it was literally my last night in the city and the country. I lost the midnight train, but no problem, I could still take the first train in the morning. In the meantime, I went to the dock because that's where all the nightlife was. The bar closed at 2 a.m. and the train passed at 5 a.m., so a guy I had met at the bar told me there's no way you're gonna spend 3 hours walking around, and he took me to his house. He gave me the worst coffee I've ever had and we spent those 3 hours talking. Then he took me to the train station, bought my ticket to the airport, and before he left he told me I'm drunk and I haven't slept, so tomorrow I might not remember you, but it's been a pleasure helping you. Can confirm we have bad coffee. Waldo, you are quite the swell guy. Someone gave me their number at the DMV because they had to go. Cut my wait time down from 3 hours to only 45 minutes. I was going through a rough patch and was in the subway and just started crying. An older gentleman took the time to talk with me and just be nice until I calmed down a bit. Reminded me so much of my dad it made me cry more. He was just so incredibly kind and patient, even though I was in a really dark place. I was backpacking across Europe and on the train to Disneyland Paris. Guy saw me getting off the train at the Disneyland station and got me admission for free. Guy worked there and randomly decided to sign me in as his guest. My buddy and I are in the Navy. We worked the night shift from Christmas Eve into Christmas morning. When we got off we went to the Waffle House, which is just what we did after every night shift, so we were still in uniform. I don't remember if we even remembered that it was Christmas until we got there. When it came time to pay up, we were told that 3 separate people had paid 3 separate hosts for our food. Our waitress, who knew us pretty well, gave us our paycheck and the rest of the money, about $50, which we left as a tip. I'm a Seahawks fan living in Arizona. In 2011, a regular at the Starbucks I worked at gave me 4 tickets to the Seahawks at Cardinals game. It was the last game of the year, so he also gave us the money that was left on his stadium food card. He said it was use it or lose it and that it had about $200 left on it. The seats were club level and my 3 friends and I ate like kings. As a thank you, we pulled in and got him a $100 Starbucks gift card. That's awesome. I am really looking forward to my first NFL game that my family has saved up for this year. Seattle or Raz are both options for where we go to one. I was at Target to do some shopping when my baby had a blowout diaper. I also had my 2-year-old with me. There was no family restroom, so I had to use the changing station in the ladies' room. My toddler was out of control and was just itching to do gross stuff like lick the floors or play in toilet water or something that would horrify literally anyone on the planet except a mischievous 2-year-old. A woman, probably in her 40s, saw my predicament, baby on changing table and me unable to physically intervene with the 2-year-old, and interacted with my toddler so I could deal with the shitsplosion my tiny infant son produced. They counted sinks, jumped from tile to tile, made silly faces to one another. It probably only lasted 2 to 3 minutes, but it was the most helpful thing someone could have done for me in that overwhelming moment. I love it. This comment made my day. A girl came up to me at the train station when a man was harassing me for my number / wouldn't leave me alone / generally being very creepy and asking what train I was taking and said, "Oh my God, Sarah, it's been so long. So good to see you. Come over and say hi to me and Jake." I'd never met her before, but I was eternally grateful she saved me from a potentially very dangerous situation. I love this kind of stories. Costs people nothing and might have saved a life. When I was a kid, my aunt brought me to an arcade. She bought me some tickets so I could play. After using all my tickets, I went to tell her I was done, and as we were leaving the building, a random stranger gave me a lot of tickets. A lot. I played the whole afternoon. Now as I type this and being a grown-up, I think it was a way to open conversation with my aunt and sending me away. Random note, but my friends and I are older now and in our 20s, but we still like arcade games. Every time we go, we make sure to give all our tickets to some little kid that looks like they could use them. Some crappy little eraser or plastic toy isn't going to make much of a difference to us, but it will to a kid, you know? This is so wholesome of you guys. It's funny because before I read the question, I totally forgot about this event which happened so long time ago, but it's the first one that popped in my head after reading the question. So yes, it does make a difference, and a big one. Person donated $200 to me, no strings attached, to help with my cancer treatments. Prayer beads, bless them. When my daughter was in the hospital with a brain tumor last year, many people sent money, total of $800-ish, to help with our costs. We initially didn't think we were going to need any money, but over the 3 weeks we were at the hospital, the money was a godsend for meals, buying clothes rather than leaving to do laundry, etc. When we were a few days from leaving the hospital, I spoke with another family that was really struggling because they had to drive 2 hours each way every day to come visit their grandchild, who was going to die as a result of parental abuse. We had a couple $100 left of our gifts, so we stuck it in an envelope and asked the nurse to give it to them later. The nurse wasn't supposed to tell them where the money was coming from, but they did, and the grandparents tracked us down and tried to give the money back. We of course refused, and the family gave us a nice thank you note. I didn't want them to know where the money came from, and I didn't want any thanks, but in a way I am glad it played out the way it did. Seeing the impact the money had, and let's face it, $200 isn't a huge amount, really resonated with me, and has encouraged me to be generous anytime I can, even with small gifts. It changed my life, and I know without any doubt that the $200 stuffed in an envelope changed their lives and was one of the only bright spots in their time at the hospital. It wasn't about the money. It was about having a stranger care about them in their time of need. I don't want it to sound like I'm patting myself on the back. I simply passed some gifts on to a person who needed them more. I only like to tell this story because I want others to know how easy it can be to have a positive impact in the life of others. I had been going through a breakup and was sitting in a plaza with a friend. I decided to try some sort of dairy-free frozen yogurt at one of the shops there. Inside, the workers were talking while helping me, and apparently the girl that was helping me was going through something at the time too. She looked at me and said, "I'm sad. Are you sad too?" I said, "Yes," and she gave me my froyo for free. Oh, my heartstrings, this is my favorite one. I had a cyst inside my ovaries that became incredibly painful out of nowhere. I was white as a sheet and managed to leave work and get to the pharmacy nearby. I was hunched over and even lying on the floor at certain times because I was in so much pain waiting in line. After I paid for whatever it was that I bought, a lady in line asked if I needed a ride anywhere. She took me to the urgent care clinic and even stayed with me to take me home. What an angel. My wife had a cyst on her tubes a few years babe. I have never seen anyone in so much pain in my life. That night seemed to drag on forever, going to prompt care then the emergency room. I literally thought she was going to die. Yeah dude, it was rough. I hope she's okay. One of my most vivid childhood memories is of me at the local bar and grill with my parents, and I was like 6 and looking at a very specific doll in a claw machine. It was Tweety Bird in a spacesuit. I was so zoned out, I didn't even know someone walked up until the claw came down, picked it up, and dropped it in the chute in one fell swoop. I turned to see a man who looked homeless/transient taking the Tweety Bird out of the chute and immediately bending down and handing it to me. Neither of us said anything, just smiled at each other, and then he turned and walked out of the restaurant. Jesus really knows how to work the claw. What else was he supposed to do when Dad went down to play skee ball all day? A Redditor gave me a video game key worth $35 for free. When I was 9 or 10 I missed the school bus. This big guy picked me up and ran towards the bus screaming to try to make the bus stop. It eventually did and he put me inside of it and then dipped. I couldn't even say thanks. And I was a chubby one no less. Did you initially think he was trying to kidnap you? I would have been scared. Turns out he was a nice guy. Reminds me of that Clue-Aid animation, Hitchhiker Part 2. What was it? What did you see? Don't worry, mate, you're okay with me. You know I've got me knife.